Hey, my friends, it's Dave Slomka, and welcome to a new episode of Dave's I Believe in You. Every 2 weeks, I release another podcast where you can find expert guidance from the sources that I've been learning from and a community of people like yourself who want to grow and change. So let me be your encourager. With God, your life can be better. You can change. Your best days are still ahead of you. I believe in you. If you are finding these podcasts helpful, then be sure to hit the like button. Give me some stars. Leave a comment. If you're on social media, then be sure to tag me or DM me at Dave Slomka so I can say hi. I'd love to hear from you. Let me encourage you to listen closely. Maybe take some notes so you remember the insights of personal growth. And then share this podcast with 3 friends and help them grow. Help them move forward in their lives and make a difference in our world. And with that, let's get started. Have you ever had a conversation with someone and wondered how they could be so out of touch with reality and really miss what's right there in front of them? Maybe you read an article or listened to a speaker and just shook your head at how wrong they were and pondered, how did they get there? Then one day in a conversation, someone accuses you of being the one who is wrong and out of touch with reality. How is this possible? It turns out that there are some emotions and values and mindsets that can lead all of us to wrong conclusions about the world. But there are steps we can take to avoid those missteps and wrong-headed beliefs and decisions. And that's what we're going to hear about today from Julia Galef and her TED Talk, Why You Think You're Right Even If You're Wrong. Now, Julia co-founded the Center for Applied Rationality, and her background is originally in statistics. And she did social science research at Columbia and Harvard business schools for several years before becoming a writer for venues like Slate, Science, Scientific American, and more. And for the last 6 years, Julia has hosted the Rationally Speaking podcast. Now, today we're going to look at Julia's TED Talk. And in that, she asks us to imagine that you're a soldier in the heat of battle. Maybe you're a Roman foot soldier or a medieval archer or maybe even a Zulu warrior. And in that moment, when your adrenaline is elevated and your actions are coming from these really deeply ingrained reflexes to protect yourself, to protect your side, and to defeat the enemy. And then she asks us to imagine playing a very different role in the army, that of a scout. Now, unlike the soldier, the scout's job is not primarily to attack or defend. The scout's job is to understand. The scout is the one who goes out and maps the area, identifying potential obstacles. And the scout may hope to learn that there's a bridge in a convenient location across a river. But if there is no bridge, then it's more important to know that than to hold on to the idea of there might be a bridge. The scout wants to know what's really there as accurately as possible. Being accurate can actually mean the difference between victory and defeat, between life and death. Now, Julia's idea is that these roles are also a mindset and even a metaphor for how all of us process the information and ideas in our daily lives. Julia argues that having good judgment, making good decisions, is mostly about the mindset you're in, soldier or scout. And then she gives an illustration to show us kind of the difference, using the story of a French officer who was convicted of treason and then sent to prison for being a spy, even though the evidence against him was really, really poor. Now, in the end, they seemed to convict the officer out of a bias because he was Jewish. Now, as far as they can tell, the French officers genuinely believed that the case against the officer was strong, even though there wasn't really that much evidence. Which makes us wonder, what does it say about our human thinking when we can find such poor evidence compelling enough to actually convict a man? These men were using the soldier mindset and they were defending a preconceived idea. This is a case of what scientists call motivated reasoning. And it's this phenomenon in which our unconscious motivations, our desires and our fears, they kind of shape the way we interpret information. Now, some information, some ideas, they feel like our allies and we want them to win. We want to defend them at all costs. And then other information or ideas are the enemy. We want to shoot those down. And this is what Julia calls motivated reasoning, the soldier mindset. Now, in that mindset, my focus is not really about accurately understanding, but it's about defending and defeating. Not defeating other soldiers, but others' ideas and their information. Now, we see this played out very simply with sports or politics. When the referee or the judge goes against our team and our side, we're often highly motivated to find reasons why they were wrong. But if the judge calls the other side wrong, that says they committed a foul, then that's awesome. What a great call. But let's not look too closely at it to see if it's true. This is also an example of confirmation bias, the tendency to search for, interpret, favor, and even recall information in a way that confirms or supports what I already believe or what I already value. We display this bias when we pick information that supports our views and then ignore contrary information. Using the scout idea from earlier, I'm looking for evidence that supports there is a bridge up ahead, and I'm rejecting an information that says differently. Now, the idea is that our judgment is strongly influenced unconsciously by which side we want to win. That's the soldier mindset. And this is everywhere. It shapes how we think about our health, our relationships, what we consider fair. We could think we're being objective and fair-minded and still wind up ruining the life of an innocent person, like that French officer, or just making a terrible decision in our own lives. Now, eventually, Julia talks about another French officer who managed to have the first one completely exonerated. But it took him 10 years, and for part of that time, he himself was imprisoned for the crime of disloyalty to the army. Now, the second French officer Julia uses as an example of the scout mindset. It's not the drive to make one idea win or another lose, but it's I want to see honestly and as accurately as I can, even if it's not pretty, or it's not convenient, or it's not pleasant. This is the mindset that Julia is personally passionate about and that I am quite passionate about as well. I want to live a life of growth, and that requires making change. Now, how can I change if I don't see what's wrong or what's really going on in my life? I need to know where I've really made a mistake or what's really happening. You need a scout mindset in your life in order to become all that God created you to be. Now, Julia spent years examining and trying to figure out what causes scout mindset. Why are some people, sometimes at least, able to cut through their own confirmation bias and underlying motivations? And just try to see the facts. Just try to see the evidence as objectively as they can. Now, the answer Julia comes up with is that it's emotion and values driven. Now, I think the emotions part of her conclusion is really interesting because it seems like emotions play a role, but it's unclear from her talk just what role that is. And in fact, there's a problem with following our feelings, and I'm going to mention that when I reference another TED Talk in just a minute. Julia mentions that the soldier mindset is rooted in emotions like defensiveness, while scouts are curious. They're more likely to say they feel pleasure when they learn new information. They're more likely to feel intrigued when they encounter something that actually contradicts their expectations. Now, curiosity seems to be a powerful way to see what's really going on around us and move past that soldier mindset that we have. Scouts also have different values. They're more likely to say they think it's virtuous to test your own beliefs. And they're less likely to say that someone who changes their mind seems weak. It's amazing to me that we know our knowledge and understanding is limited and that we grow in our understanding over time. What I know today is very different from what I knew 20 years ago. But we often want to lock in our thinking and be unwilling to change our minds. But growth requires change. There are some beliefs and values that we will hold on to, and these will hold up to our doubts and our questions. But asking questions and being open to new ideas is not something to be afraid of. And above all, scouts are grounded. Julia talks about that their self-worth as a person isn't tied into if I'm right or I'm wrong about any topic. So you could feel bad about jogging and think it's a terrible thing to do. But if you get proven through studies and examples that that's not the case, you're able to say, looks like I might be wrong. That doesn't mean I'm bad or I'm stupid. It just means I've got new information and I've changed my mind. Now, this cluster of traits is what research found predicts good judgment. Julia notes that those traits are not about how smart you are or how much you know. In fact, it doesn't really correlate with IQ at all. These are about values and beliefs and feelings. Now, the feelings part reminds me of another TED Talk by Catherine Schultz about being wrong. And Catherine talks about how we all struggle with realizing that we're wrong. We don't like that feeling, like at all. But she points out that the problem is not being wrong, it's actually realizing we were wrong. It's just like that Looney Tunes cartoon with the Roadrunner and the coyote, where the coyote always seems to run off a cliff. And for a second, he seems just fine. He's made a mistake, but he doesn't realize it yet. And he just hangs there in midair. Realizing it and it being true are different things. He doesn't realize there's a problem, but he really has made a mistake. And it's when the coyote understands the mistake, that's when he feels bad. That's when we feel bad. The reality of being wrong is just that. It's a reality. You're wrong or you're not wrong. But realizing it or not, that's different. Realizing you've run off the cliff, that's what Catherine calls error blindness. We have been taught that being wrong is a bad thing from the time we were actually quite young. And so we avoid that feeling of being wrong as much as possible. But avoiding the realization is like being the coyote standing in midair, not wanting to know that he's made a mistake. The truth is that we're all flawed and we make mistakes. But are we willing to move past our feelings and admit to the reality of what's going on? Now, if you're a follower of Jesus, then you know that we all make mistakes and we're all wrong a lot. God tells us that's true. And we usually admit that it's true. Well, we admit the idea is true. We just don't want to admit the reality that we're wrong. We don't like the way it feels. And so instead of being scout-minded and trying to see what's real around us and inside us, we instead embrace a soldier mindset that wants to defend ourselves from feeling wrong. But often we just end up standing in midair like the coyote, defending our feeling of being right, so we don't have to admit that we've made a mistake. Of course, we're going to fall. The consequences of being wrong are eventually going to catch up with us. Sometimes it just takes a while. I love the values that Julia highlights for the Scout mindset. Curiosity about what's true and real. A willingness to change our minds and admit that what we thought was right isn't. Perhaps most important, not finding our worth as a person in being mistake-free and always correct. Our true value comes from God, the one who created us and loves us and wants a relationship with us. And it's these traits that will help us see what's really going on in us and around us so that we can make better choices and embrace the changes that will help us become the best version of ourselves. In 2 weeks, we're going to look at dysfunctional comfort and how that can keep us trapped and prevent us from moving forward. I am really looking forward to that. I hope you are too. In the meantime, if you want more detailed notes, then you can go to daveslomka.com and subscribe. I'll send those to you. Until then, make sure to share the episode with 3 people. Let's pass on the encouragement and show others that we believe in them. There are people in your life who want to make a change in their lives. They want to make a difference in our world. So please leave a comment or review. It is a big help to me. Every day is a good day to grow and change. I believe in you. With God in your life, anything is possible. So go out there and make that change.